So I swapped the bike around and we're working on the right side now. So we need to do a couple of things in order to get this cover off, to get access to these bolts here, just to make it easy. First thing I want to do is remove this rear brake pedal. So I've got a, what is this, a hex 8 is what this is here. And that's just this one bolt right here. Now if you don't have a, one of these electric battery ratchets, just do it by hand, no biggie. And now there are spacers in here, so be cautious or mindful when you take these out that they can drop. There we go. Just make sure you put them back, that's all. And let me show you that. There's a spring here too. So just take this spring off right there. Get that out of the way. Here's the spacer. So there was one, it's kind of like a washer. Just remember to put that back when you're done, that's all. And then this gets greased up pretty well. This one's got plenty of grease on it. I'm just going to set that down there and out of our way. The spring is not really going to, he's kind of in our way. Let me grab a pair of needle nose right here, because it's pretty tight here between the frame and this cover. So just make life easy. That pops off just like that. And I'll stick this right onto the brake pad. I'm just looking here and it looks like they didn't even have this on correctly. So anyway, we'll make sure that's right when we put it back. So let's do that. Okay, so that spring's on there now. Let's get the heat shield off the exhaust pipe. Now, they've got this all rigged up here, so you probably won't have, this looks like a 10 millimeter hex and a 4 hex Allen there. So I've got those right here. Let me swap this out. So you'll probably have the same bolt for both, unless somebody got hacky on your bike. So that one comes off. We'll put that aside. This one has like a little rubber washer sitting there. And let's get our 10 millimeter now. Oh, where did he go? Son of a gun. Don't you hate when you put stuff down and you can't find it? All right, get this off. So we got that bolt loose. And this cover comes out of the way. And the reason we need that really out of the way, and I'll just put these bolts next to the heat shield so they don't get lost. We need to remove right in here, and hopefully you can see that. Let me grab my light right here. There's 2 bolts here holding a bracket for this is the clutch cable right here. So let's take those 2. Now this is all like the cover. These are all 8 millimeter. And I think I told you guys earlier that this was missing over here, so that bolt was missing. No good. We'll get that corrected too. Let's find my 8 millimeter. Now I lost that. There it is. All right. I'm gonna start with this bracket now. This is too tight in here. I can't get my 3/8 drive in, so we're gonna switch to a 1/4 inch drive. No problem. And just because it's beveled down in here, so I guess it makes it too tight. That socket's too wide. All right. Just back that out real quick. And just keep mindful of what bolts go where as far as the size, the length. They're all pretty much M6, metric, but the lengths are different. And that's what you got to be mindful of. So here's one here, and I believe these are going to be shorter, a little bit shorter than the main bolts. When I say the main, like the 8 or 10, what is it, 10 of them that go around the outside, we'll count them. Come on. Now that's if they were put in correctly. Who knows in this case what was what. So let's pull these out. Let me see how long these are. See, we already know we're in for fun because can you see it on camera? There's goo all over these. So we've already got our black RTV, and I'm going to set this off to the side. And now to disconnect it is pretty simple. After your bracket's removed, let me show you how to release this, because you may not be familiar. It's just like a bicycle has cables. Anyway, there's a slot back here, and what you do is you push this forward, bring the cable out, and then you're free. Okay, so we'll just take this and put that up out of our way. And here's the slot right back in here. You can see that. Oops, you can't see anything because the light just died, but right here, now you can. So there's your slot. All right, so that's free, and this is for your clutch. So get the cable back here. You don't want to kink it, but just, you know, give it a little persuasion. Just get it out of the way. And now we can get off our main bolts. Now these 3 bolts here are for oil filter, so why don't we just break those loose right now wow, somebody got these tight. Let's just get them loose. We'll change the filter. Oh boy, tight. When we put this all back together, we will have a new one. These are pretty long for a little cover. Okay, so let's get that out of our way. That's right here. Now what there is there's an O-ring back here, right on there, and we're going to replace that O-ring. So, and there's a little spring that's held in right here. Of course, the lighting's poor. Hold on. Take care of that so you can see that. Okay, that spring sits right in there like that. If yours happens to pop out, those were the screws. But if yours happens to pop out, you know how that goes. Make sure that's in there. It's very important. And we will change those, like I said, we will change that O-ring out when we're done. So let me get the screws over there, keeping everything together. Here's our filter. I got a little oil pan under here, right down here, that one we drained into earlier. Just wiggle that out. Oh wow, look at this. There is tons. Holy crap, holy, good thing we did this. This is important. There's tons of crap in this filter. Never mind that. This thing is loaded with silicone. That is not good. And look what I just found in here. I gotta zoom you in for this. I gotta take you guys over. You gotta see this. This is evidence right here. Look at all this crap down in that engine. This is all black RTV, and it's like grit. I can feel it. It feels like sand in here. And there's some orange back there too, if you can see that. Oh, isn't that lovely? Oh, boys. One thing when you buy something used, you know, you gotta, sometimes you can't. You gotta be as cautious as you can, but you can't always, you know, predict this stuff. So let's get this crap out of here. Man, that's a lot of junk floating in there. That is a lot of dookie. Not good. So we'll definitely make sure we put it together, you know, the right way. That can't be good, because that filter has so much crap in it that will cause oil starvation. And the bearings don't get happy, and the camshaft don't like stuff like that. Well, here's the filter that I took off out here in the sun, and you can see all this garbage that's in there. Hopefully you can see it. I got it pretty close here. Every single pleat of this filter I see has poop. That's what it's worth. It's junk. Has crap in it. So hopefully we've got the engine a little bit happier now. It's trying to get away from me. It's definitely got corona. All right, so that's out of the way. Let me count the number of bolts there, not including the 2 that hold the clutch. Oh boy, the clutch cable bracket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we've got that one here that was missing. That's number 10. So let me zip the 9 that are here out, and we'll be able to yank the cover out and get to the next step. we've got all those out. Now these three I had to get with the 1/4" drive, 10 millimeter, because, I'm sorry, 8 millimeter, because I just couldn't get the 3/8 in there, so that's no biggie, just letting you know that. So now we should be free, nothing left. This side is a lot less complicated than the other side. So let me take my soft hammer here, soft face hammer, and give this a tap. It's gonna be tight because the guy's got this all glued in with all this crap. There it goes. I've got the pan under there in case any residual oil comes off. And now we just gotta kind of wiggle this loose a little bit, and hopefully she'll come out. Let me take the dipstick out. That's right here. Just get this dipstick out of your way. Make sure that's off. And we should be good. Come on. It's holding me up. There it goes. Oh boy, it's beautiful. Oh yeah, look at this. Let me get you guys a shot of this beautifulness. Oh man. Man, is this nasty. All right. So I'm not sure how well it's showing up on camera, but look at all this goop that's in here. Look how much is inside the engine case, which we know is a no-no. I mean, look at this. Look at this crap. So anyway, all right, we got our work cut out for us. Up on the engine case itself, what is going on here? What in the world is this? Just another glob of crap. Alrighty. So let me spend some time getting this cleaned out. Look at this, it's all in here too. Jeez. So while we're here, let me just point a few things out. So this is your clutch right here. And the clutch is made up of what they call steels and friction. The friction material is kind of like a brake pad material. These are oil soaked. This is a wet clutch. Anyway, they're stacked. So if you were going to replace your clutch, this is where you're going. You take these bolts out. There's a pressure plate. There's some springs back there. It's under a little bit of tension. But anyway, so they call this the basket. That's what I call it. Anyway, that's what that is. Right over here, this is your crankshaft that's running back into here. There's bearings and stuff. And let me get out of the light. There's bearings in there. This gear, this plastic gear behind here is your oil pump. You know, on this particular bike, that's the oil pump right there. So there's your tour. Let me get cleaning. It's going to be a little while, and then I'll fire the camera back up. I hate beating a dead horse, but I got to get the point across because this stuff here, let me show you what's going on. I'm over at the bench now. I'm going to clean this up. Right in here, now this is the back of where our oil filter is, right? So oil comes in, oil goes out, it gets filtered. Now, can you see this? It's like a valley in here, right? Goes down there, what, about an inch or so. Look how this is all clogged here. This is like a giant, look at this. I almost used a bad word. But on the other side, here it is here. I mean, I gotta get two hands. But these little ports and stuff are real important not to get clogged up. And that's all this goop is doing. Now the good thing is, I'm gonna clean that up. Let me show you over here. The good news is I spent probably half hour, 45 minutes just cleaning this case up. The dude that did this work, the butcher, whatever you want to call him, he didn't gouge the engine case too bad. So as far as getting the old gasket material, the original stuff off, when it came off, it must have come off pretty good for him because he didn't scrape it into the aluminum. You don't want to take a razor knife, and I probably mentioned this before, and gouge, you know, when you're going to take this stuff off, you go real lightly or use like a 600 or 800 grit sandpaper just to get the stuff off. And then use your solvent on a clean cloth. I don't like to use these kind of rags, these blue ones, or you know, they've got white ones also, because the fibers tend to come apart on the edge, and then you're leaving fibers in there. So I'll use a cotton rag, a good clean cotton rag, and of course I put a rag in here when I'm scraping this crap off so it doesn't fall down into the engine. And then afterwards you take your compressed air, you know, take your blowgun, all that out of there. Then take your solvent again on the clean rag and wipe down all the surfaces. Now, let's say this guy took a screwdriver or whatever and he gouged, he gouged this stuff up really bad. And what I would do is with the factory gasket, which we're going to be putting back in, I would put the lightest amount of sealant in the ultra, I mean super thin, just on the side, and then put it in place, and then did it on the other side too, on the case part that we're going to bolt on. That's worst case scenario to prevent the leaks, because if there's a gouge in there, it's not going to seal properly. Anyway, I hope that helps you out. If you're new to this or you come across this problem, it helps you out. So let me go clean that cover and we'll fire the camera back up. So here we are after, nice and clean. All the ports are clean now. Plenty of brake clean, rags, compressed air, time, and you'll get all this garbage out of here. Look at this disaster. Anyway, just wanted to show you what it looks like now. We're all set to go back in. So I want to set our alignment dowels in here first, so let's do that. And they just push in one there. Same like on the other side, there's just two of them. And they just sit in there. So our gasket will sit tight. Here's our gasket, brand shiny new. Only goes on one way. And this is part number 11061-1315. So that's the gasket for that. Put that over there. And we'll set this, let me take my glove off. And we'll set this right in here. Right over those dowels. Holds it in place, nice. Make sure everything's clean. We already blew this off with compressed air. Our case is ready, and we should be good to go. Dowels are in, everything's clean, we're good to go. So, not forgetting anything. And let's set that right in place there. That's good. Get a couple of bolts started. Remember, these two are for the bracket for the clutch cable. So let me just get that started. That's good. Just so this thing doesn't fall down. Doesn't fall down, go boomy. Remember that? You get righty tighty. And then I'll just put these all in and get them snugged up in the old crisscross action. So here, then there, and I'll do all that, and I won't have to bore you guys with that. So we'll just get them all in there and get to the next step. So it's time to put the oil filter in. I'm using the Genuine Parts Kawasaki right here, 520101053. And what you do is down here I've got some engine oil. I just put a little bit on this side of the filter. There's a rubber like bushing. On the other side's all metal. The all metal goes outwards towards us. Anyhow, just kind of twist that in there. Then on our cap, make sure your spring is in. I've got a new O-ring here. What's that part number? That is 920550201. Here, let me show you in case you need that right there. You can look this stuff up easy enough. There's plenty of stuff online. I'm just putting some oil on that and set it in the groove here. There's a groove. Let me get it lined up. All right, got our new O-ring on there. And this can go on, there's an arrow right here. So, not sure if you can see that. So the arrow on this guy goes up, just like this. And like I said, make sure your spring is on. Keep the pressure on there. And we'll get this bolted down. You got to hold it in the center with your thumb because of the pressure from the spring. And let me get those going in. Got to be in forward. Come on, righty tighty. There we go. Now I'm stopping right before it gets like real tight with the tool. I'm going to snug these up by hand. Okay, that's good for now. If you're doing it by hand, make sure you don't go ballistic on it. You know, don't start cranking down too hard. This is just aluminum and it can strip. So the next thing, just make sure you squeeze your clutch up here, the lever. Make sure all this stuff is working well. It's moving. If you want to put it in gear and rock the bike, you know, pull the clutch in, make sure nothing's sticking or binding. This one feels good. So that's all set there. So the service manual calls for 78 inch-pounds. And we're pretty much there now. That's good. So now I'll just go ahead and bolt on the lever, hook on this spring that you saw me take off earlier. Go ahead and hook this spring on right there. Make sure that washer's in there. You know, that spacer. Don't cross thread this thing. That's good. That's about 30 pounds on there. Make sure that works good. All right, time for the exhaust shield. And then, like I say, the only thing we really need to do now is put oil in it. And I'm going to crank it over. I've got the, right here, you can't, right there, yeah, you can see it. I've got the spark plug disconnected. And the reason being, I want to crank it over a few times before we actually fire the bike up. So we can get all that oil pumped up through the engine just to be safe. With everything buttoned up, time to put a quart of oil in. Now it does take like 1.1, I think I mentioned that earlier. So what I want to do is I'm just going to put this quart of oil in, and then like I said, I'll crank it over a few times before we actually start it. Alright, so I've got the spark plug grounded. You know, it's off the spark plug. Got the battery hooked up. I'm going to give it a couple of cranks. Just let the oil pump through and then we'll fire it up. Hopefully it'll be high and dry. Alright, that's good enough. Let's see if she starts. So, you know, if it blows up, at least we'll have it on film, right? You guys will be the first to know, but hopefully everything will go well. Let me put the choke on. Let me put the fuel on. There's a petcock down here on the left side. So it'll probably take a couple cranks and then fire up, hopefully. Almost. Getting there. Come on. Let me get the jumper. Just being a little stingy this morning, so let's hook up the jump pack. I've got this Wagon V10 iBoost, ion boost, which works fantastic. It's very compact. I'll be doing a review on this very soon. So let's see if that helps us out now. There we go. Yeah, battery was weak. What I like about this tester is you can't hook it up backwards, so it's really nice. Jumper. All right, so I want to check for leaks, and then I'll bring you guys in. Hopefully you can hear me. So far she's running good. Let's take a peek. So before we had a major leak up in here, I'm not going to touch that hot pipe, but right in there. And of course, after it runs a little bit, we'll make sure it's not wet underneath there. So far, I don't see any gushing. Let's get a flashlight. Looking dry in there. Big concern, like I said to you guys, was this grommet right here that the guy hacked and had it broken. What I'll probably do is just rip up and down the driveway a couple of times. Let me come over here so you can hear me. So I'll just rip it up and down the driveway a few laps around the yard, what have you, and we'll get that oil pumping really good, and then I'll check the oil level and I'll get that chain guard on. Of course, I got to put the seat on right now because that wouldn't be a comfortable ride. Anyway, we'll put the seat and the side covers on, and then I'll turn the camera back on for the big reveal conclusion here. So back from my little test drive, and I let the bike cool down. What I want to do now is basically just feel underneath the covers here, make sure everything feels dry on both sides, since we did both. And there's no moisture, no oil, no moisture, which is a good thing. No drips on the floor. What I do want to point out is something important with motorcycles, and this dirt bike's considered a motorcycle, is that the stator on this side has oil in that cover. You saw oil in there, maybe you didn't, but when I pulled it off there was some, and that's normal on some bikes, whether they're big bikes or little bikes. Some of those, the stator or stator, whatever you want to call it, that cover will have oil. Some are dry, some you don't want to see any oil. In this case, we have the starter idler gear. Remember, I pulled that one out, and then there was another like pinion gear in back of that went to the flywheel. Well, those obviously have to be lubricated, so they're going to need oil. Now, on the clutch side, this particular bike and many of the Japanese bikes do have what's called wet clutches. So I think I might have explained that earlier, where you need oil in there for them to work properly, and you need to use the correct oil. So make sure you use motorcycle oil if you have a wet clutch. Some clutch, or some models are going to be dry. You're not going to have to worry about that. So anyway, those are some key points. I hope this video helped you out if you've got to service your starter or your clutch or your flywheel or whatever. Maybe you've got a whole bunch of silicone on there and your bike's leaking oil. Anyway, now you know how to fix it. Use those OEM gaskets. It'll save you a lot of headache. Torque those bolts down correctly, seal it all up, and you're good to go. So thanks for joining along. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave your questions and comments down below. And I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.